So did we want to go ahead and call to order then?
If we have a quorum, that would be great.
Yeah. We will call to order. I will call to order. I am filling in for Trish. She asked me to fill in. She wasn't going to be able to make it today. So I am going to let the roll call happen if you don't mind letting it happen.
Sure. And so the call to order was at 5:08. All right. Okay, so please respond present when I call your name. Paul Brown.
Present.
Louis Carty.
Present.
Trish Miller. Not present. Amaryllis Jones.
Present.
Dion Holland.
Present.
Vince Thomas.
Present.
Jacob Hackett.
He said he's trying to join. He's having some technical difficulties. So
Okay.
he's not present, but he's trying.
Okay. And Andrea Carter. Not present yet. Okay, and so we have a quorum because we have 5 people. Mr. Carty.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mulholland was nice enough to send out both the agenda for today as well as the previous minutes. If hopefully everybody's taken a look at that. Are there any changes or edits or questions about the current agenda for today? In not hearing any, I will be happy to take a motion to approve the agenda as is. Anybody? Anybody?
I approve the agenda as printed.
Thank you, Ms. Holland. And do we have a second?
I second.
And if no one opposes, then we will approve the agenda as is. We will then move on to the previous minutes. Also thankful that has been sent out, and hopefully you took a look at that. Were there any additions or edits or questions about last meeting's minutes? Hearing none, I will take a motion to approve those as is.
I second it.
We'll take yours as the first motion. Anybody want to second that? It's all right. It's all right.
And I second the motion.
Awesome. Not hearing any nays. I do not hear any. Then we will approve those as is. Those minutes were wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Holland, very much. It was great to catch up on those and remember what we talked about last meeting. Thank you very much for those. The action item we have for this month is to actually vote on the budget. Before we do that, I will ask Principal Brown, is there any additional comments, changes, or edits he has made for the budget for us to review?
Yes, sir. So there has been some additional changes due to some additional funding we received from the federal government through the CARES Fund. And so I would like to, if I could share, oh, is that the one I sent you, Mr. Mulholland?
Yes, but I can also allow you to share your screen.
Can I share my screen? Then I can maneuver it, the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is kind of go back to our, kind of walk us through the whole process and then take us to some of the changes. I think that the Go team would really, I think the changes that were made to support our current strategic plan for next school year. So I'm gonna set my screen up. Now I gotta figure out how to, give me 1 second, you all. Trying to maneuver through. Okay.
And just for the record, it looks like Dr. Hackett has joined.
Okay, now I gotta figure out how.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about the delay.
Thank you for joining.
Okay, let me do this. Let me try share screen. No, let me move you all over here. One second, you all. I'm having some issues of maneuvering this budget. From the beginning. Okay, now that will work. Okay, I think this is going to work right. screen to share. Okay, can you all see the budget?
Yes.
So originally we started with our budget, and I'm just going to go through it. Okay, there you go. So we talked about our norms, and we know that we went over our norms. I'm going to skip that part. But we did a data review where we went back and visited our strategic plan, and we also updated our strategic plan to include one of the major things that stuck out to me was providing teacher support through in the areas of science and social studies, but also addressing the need of supporting students with loss due to COVID and due to summer loss, as well as this loss this school year. So all of that was in the budget, in the strategic plan. We also maintain things such as still maintaining our recess for students, still maintain a support for reading within the school, still maintaining our signature program, which is IB. Then I kind of mentioned to you all that we received over $8 million for our budget, but the budget included a loss of projection by 22 students. But I do believe that we'll make those 22 students up. And then we kind of talked about the different funding sources. And so I met with our area superintendent after meeting with you all. After meeting with you all, we did receive some funds from the federal government for CARES funding. And so we still try to build our program around the academic program at our school, making sure that we retain and support teachers, make sure that we improve the efficiency of decision-making by making sure that all stakeholders were aware of what's in the budget. So I did meet with the staff as well as the leadership team to go through the full budget with them to make sure they understood. And so when we looked at our priorities, we looked at priorities of focus on achievement for all subgroups. We also looked at providing support for social studies and science teacher, because right now we have two instructional coaches, Ms. Bankston, who is our current math instructional coach, but she's been supporting science, but she doesn't have that strong science background. Ms. Ford is ELA, and she's been supporting social studies, and she does not have that strong ELA background. But we did recognize that social studies and science students are reading a lot of informational text. So if we want our social studies and science to improve, we need to provide some day-to-day support to teachers. And so we encourage having instructional coaches. We also made sure that the budget maintained our signature program, which is International Baccalaureate. And then we also looked at the superintendents, and the district strategic plan talks about making sure students are proficient in reading. So there's a big focus on proficiency in the district. And so this strategic plan, this budget does reflect a focus on those items. In our budget, there are 2% is held back in reserve. And so that money is still there. If we make our enrollment, we will get that amount. And I'm going to show you what that amount is. That amount is $118,000. With that amount, we could support the district school improvement plan, because that supports getting students at proficiency in reading, and we could establish a reading lab. And so that money in reserve, if we make an enrollment, it will be used to support by adding an additional teacher. And then we have some money that are Title I held back, and that money was held back from Title I funding, and it was about $88,000. That money would be used to support the learning gaps by providing supports for students after school, Saturday school, tutorial, any type of transportation, all of those things. So that's if we make our enrollment, we will get that amount back. So in our current budget, after review, there were a couple of changes. In our current budget, all positions will remain. We will not be losing staff except for one. We're not losing a person, we're losing a position. But we will be adding 2 additional positions. We're adding 2 additional gifted teachers. When after looking at our budget and after thinking about the conversation with you all, the big focus on increasing rigor, the big focus on increasing proficiency, we are currently allotted 2 gifted teachers through the district. We're purchasing 2 additional gifted teachers, and we'll be looking at them by content to support students in the classroom through 2 gifted teachers. We received an additional amount of money that was $342,000 from the CARES Fund from the federal government from COVID. That money came after the budget was out. So I knew that one of our goals was to support science and social studies teachers. So we are using some of those funds to add a science and social studies instructional coach. And I want to preface this too. If we add the science and social studies coach through the federal funds, and we know that federal funds are year-to-year based, we looked at possibly in our general budget, how will we be able to absorb those 2 positions? And we can through our reserve and Title I funds if we needed to. So if it boils down to it, we will still have it for the next school year because we can absorb those funds through our general budget. So we're not looking for those positions to go away after this school year. We're looking for them to be a part of our regular staff. The other addition has been to support students and families in our community. I budgeted for a community and school staff members and they're like a community and school social worker. They have access to a lot of resources to support families, such as with rent, with food, with shelter, getting students tutorial, working on attendance, looking at our kids with the highest absenteeism, failing grades. And so that person will be here working through community schools, and their organization will be here to support us as well. And so that's a part of the funding to support, because we do have some students that we have lost during this whole time of COVID. And so we know that when they transition back into the school, that they're going to need some support. And then there are some current students that are here every day that families may need some support as well. So in addition to having our social worker here at school, we will have an additional person from communities and schools to support families outside of school. Because if the families are not taken care of, then our kids won't be able to learn. And then the district is actually, in the beginning, we had to pay for half of this person, but the district absorbed the cost of this. And so we will have a full-time technology specialist here to support teachers, and they will be here every day supporting teachers, modeling how can you use technology in the classroom, and to support students as well. And so those are some of the major changes in the budget, but they all, if you go back to our strategic plan, it still goes back to supporting the academic program at our school, increasing rigor. It also supports moving students to proficiency. It also supports making sure our parents and students get what they need so they can be successful at school. And it supports building teacher toolbox and knowledge base. And so again, this is just an overview of the budget where we receive the funds, a breakdown of the funds. When you look at our budget, 76% of our budget is going straight into the classroom of our current budget. The 10%, which is the green, the school administration, that includes things like the assistant principals, the graduation coach, those people who support schools as well. So, but the biggest amount of our budget is spent on students and going directly into the classroom. So that really, then I just restated that. So with that, that concludes where the budget is. And I think there were a couple of questions that the district had. Are there new positions and do they address the majority, the priorities? Yes, they do, because we want to move kids to proficiency. I do feel like we need to work on getting not just science gifted, a science regular ed teacher, but someone who's gifted certified, because that gifted certified person brings along with them lots of strategies that will support regular ed teachers in the classroom as well. So we're really trying to look at how do we increase the rigor so that we can increase the proficiency of our students and move more students to proficiency. And I think the only trade-off was we did lose one position, but that position, we did not lose the person. So let me clarify that. We lost the position, but though that position, those responsibilities have been passed on to someone else.
What was that position?
It was the IB coordinator. So now the fourth assistant principal would take on the responsibility of IB and being the coordinator for IB. The IB coordinator will be taking on some other responsibilities within. So I'll open it up to questions, clarifications, or what you think.
Would you make a gifted LC?
No. We tried that before. It was not. We tried that before, and there were some of the things that came out of it was kids began to. It was some social things that kind of came out that was not good for the culture of the school, because kids started thinking that some groups of students were thinking they were better than one group of kids because they were here, and it was not as, it was not good for kids. And
wouldn't that go against IB?
Yes.
Basically pulling kids out?
Yes. And my philosophy as well. So it just didn't work.
It wasn't the best of both. It wasn't the best.
It wasn't. And then I think that when we looked at the data from our kids, the students there was no difference. There was no big difference in the data when kids came back academically. When we looked at our state test, actually, in some cases, our students that were not in the gifted program, they outperformed the students that were in gifted. And
Interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't a good cultural thing.
It was
not at all.
When you spoke to the positions that were being added, and those came from the CARES money, but then you said something about even if that, explain that again. Even if that didn't,
I can
explain that again.
Okay, so my biggest concern was I'm always concerned about when you add a position, and if you add it through federal funds are not guaranteed every year. So my biggest concern was if we add a position, how do we keep the position when the federal funds go away? So within our budget, and that was the reason we had to eliminate one position, because that position created a cushion in our general budget to absorb one of those coaching positions. And then in our general budget, we had enough funds that we could cushion ourselves through the Title I holdback as well as the reserve to pay for the other one. So if the federal funds go away if the federal funds go away after next year, we maintain our student enrollment or it goes up, we will be able to absorb those two positions within our general budget. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, that was thank you very much. That clarifies that completely. I had one more question though, as it relates to the IB coordinator. Was the feeling that work that an IB coordinator would do was not enough to warrant a full-time position? Therefore, it's moved into that fourth AP. I wanted to understand that a little more as well.
It was, yes. It was basically that sense because it was that originally when we add the fourth AP on the curriculum, her title was IB assistant principal as well as curriculum. So that transition was going to happen anyway. And I'm looking you all to the side because your pictures are on my screen on the side. So that's why.
I think that's a wonderful explanation because that is something I would think that some parents would concern them because what you're taking away by coordinator, but to say that that was the IB AP to begin with makes perfectly good sense what would roll into that position now.
Right. If you go back and look at our original budget from last year, when we first came up with the fourth assistant principal, it was curriculum and IB assistant principal. But we have built in our schedule with the instructional coaches, our current IB coordinator, we are already planning on all of our instructional coaches as well as the IB assistant principal attending training for the IB coordinator. So there will be other people hands in it to make sure that we stay focused on IB. And if we think about it, there is still we still have additional funds. We could bring that position back to this year as well. But my biggest concern was in the long run, how do we keep those people that support instruction with science, social studies, math, and ELA, and then also support, and then we have someone who supports IB full time. And this year, our curriculum assistant principal has been shadowing our IB coordinator so that she's aware of what all about IB.
Do we have any other questions for Principal Brown?
No, I don't.
Seeing the new the changes and the edits to the new budget, we will need to now, complete with those changes, vote on this budget. So
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So how do you all see the connection with our strategic plan with all of the changes? That would be my question.
Hey, sorry about my video, y'all, but it's good to see all of you. My Wi-Fi is pretty spotty. Can you hear me okay?
Just
Yes.
fine? Yes.
Okay, great. I'm so sorry. It's interesting to hear about the focus on literacy and reading, and I do think it's reflective in a lot of the budget items. The focus coming from the district, I think that was the mention from Principal Brown around getting the proficiency, et cetera. And then there was a comment about having two more instructional coaches as well as the gifted teachers and supporting content area literacy and thinking, and there was and I think Principal Brown, you mentioned that it was going to be a strength about sharing perhaps techniques and maybe some practices to delve into literacy and reading in the content areas, as well as, of course, ELA and other, reading focused subjects. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
We are in the process of developing. So our biggest thing, I know that the district is moving toward how do we address the needs of students based off of us being in a pandemic for a year and a half. When they come back in the classroom, my biggest concern is how do we provide some ongoing support to teachers through strategies. So we're kind of like, we're planning all of this out now. We're also looking at how do we put some things in place for students during the school day where they get extended learning or extended support on specific areas of weaknesses. So we are actually still working that out, Dr. Hackett. I would love to have you a part of that committee because I know you're a big thing on literacy. Yeah, once we get the positions in place and the budget is approved, then we're starting to build the ship. So kind of build, because there will be some team teaching at our school, lots of team teaching next year, because we do have very limited room capacity. But it may end up being where a gifted teacher is actually teaching with a regular ed teacher. So it may be sort of like on the COTOP spectrum, the COTOP end, similar to special education in some classes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the commitment that you all are going to be taking to that, especially in the content areas, because there is just so much literacy across all the content areas. And of course, being away for this long, it's going to be really important. And just to mention also to the extended opportunities, with the resurgence of Georgia State students coming back to campus and being fairly close to campus, where could volunteer opportunities come into play? And I think, and I have a feeling, just from talking to some of the undergrads, that there is going to be this desire to kind of reach out and help in any ways possible. So if there's ways that there can be sort of a pipeline of volunteers, perhaps coming from GSU or local universities, I think that could be a really a strong possibility.
I think that would be great. Yes, so I think that you and I can have a conversation after, and we can, especially with George, because I would love for the students to be back in the school helping students.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns about the strategic plan, the connection, budget? Okay, I'm back to you, Mr. Corti.
Not hearing other questions, I would love to have a motion to approve the budget as discussed.
I make a motion to approve the budget as discussed.
Can I get a second?
All
I
right.
second that motion.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, please respond with a nay. Hearing no nays, I will take that as unanimous support for the budget as written. I will say thank you very much for all the hard work.
Thank you, and I think when I'll say that after we close the meeting.
But the only other item on our agenda is a principal's report. I wanted to see if there was any additional things you'd like to discuss or share with the Go team.
So we are in preparation. The only thing I will say is that we do have some additional students returning next week. For the last 9 weeks, we originally for second semester, the first half, we had 257 parents to sign up for face-to-face, but we only averaged about 157 students a day. And so 100 of those students didn't even come. So with our last 9 weeks, we have an additional about 137 kids that are projected to come into the building. And so the assistant principals just finished a meeting with those parents. And so that's what we're preparing for. We have added air purifiers into the classrooms. And so every teacher has an air purifier. We ordered them back in the fall, but they didn't get here till about, I guess, 3 or 4 weeks ago, teachers. And so I will say that the teachers have been outstanding. We have a great group of adults that work in this school that care for children. I would say that. And the other thing I would say is we have some outstanding students at our school, and the students that were a part of the first phase in have been so supportive, been very positive, been wearing their masks, been giving their best. It's been nice seeing the kids in the building, but also very nice to see that they are taking things seriously and they're being supportive. We did add into our daily routine when the weather allows that teachers can take the students out to walk around the track. And I would say that I think that the benefit of that, and I was going to tell you, like my niece, who was a 6th grader here, said that she made a new friend. And I said, well, you don't make friends in your class? No, we don't talk because it's COVID, so we wear our masks and we do our work. But when she walked around the track, she was able to have some time wearing her. I said, well, were you wearing your mask? Yes, I was wearing my mask. And so, but she made a new friend, especially, and so that has given kids time to kind of decompress along with teachers. And that has been a great benefit. So it's kind of going back to our recess that we tried to do. but now it's just a recess of walking and staying distance apart as they go around the track. And the classes are small enough where teachers can monitor it. That's all I have.
That's fantastic. Every little bit, I really appreciate that story. Every little bit of creativity and ingenuity during.
Dr. Hackett, your phone is really, yeah. Dr. Hackett, we can get the last part. We appreciate your comment.
Well, does anybody else on the call have any announcements or would wish to discuss any new business? Well, I will add a couple things. The next meeting is scheduled for April 15th at 5 p.m. right here, same time, same bat channel. And then, Mr. Principal Brown, if you would not mind reiterating the part of the conversation we had kind of before the call started, maybe for some that were not on here, about the parent slot and what we could or could not do with that, that would be wonderful.
So we have one parent that was elected to Go Team. I've reached out to the parent through phone, email, have not had a response. And I know that we're actually looking for parents for next year for Go Team to enter, but for this current position, I want to make sure that we can either move forward without that person, or if I nominate someone to finish out that term. And so I'm going to reach out and make sure I have a clear guidance from Go Team, because it's my understanding, I think I can appoint someone, but I want to make sure I have clear guidance from Go Team, and then we can do that for the next meeting. And that may be a way to get parents interested in Go Team for next year if someone just joined for the short period to get used to what Go Team is all about. But if you know of a parent that would like to join Go Team, please share. Reach out to that parent, because we are looking for parents to run for Go Team for next school year.
And once you clarify that, whether we can or cannot, or however that works, I agree with you. I believe that you can as well. We can just do the same, and either if you know somebody or if we need to advertise for that.
What I would do is I would bring that person to the Go Team meeting in April.
Okay.
I've reached out to a couple of people.
I would like to reach out to the rest of the team to see if we are okay with this process that's been discussed. Let's make sure we're all on the same page with that.
I completely agree.
I agree as well.
I concur as well.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, well, that sounds good then. I believe, do we have anything else before we need to adjourn? Well, Mr. Mulholland, I believe that this, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this was a public comment. Is that correct? Opportunity? Did we have anybody send in anything? I know it's kind of weird since we're not on YouTube, but I just wanted to double check that.
No, but I did check, and there was no one left a comment or question or anything.
Thank you. Well, if we have no other business or no other announcements, then I would take a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
I motion to adjourn.
Oh, I thought you said you motioned to adjourn.
I'll take a motion to adjourn, but we're good. We got our motion, we got our second. So that would conclude this month's Go Team meeting. I appreciate everybody showing up and look forward to seeing everybody next month.
Okay. Thank you all. Have a great one.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Be safe.